in the alphabet. It's because it's the city of brotherly love.
Do you know how alphabets work?
I'm sorry?
What?
Cavs Sixers tonight, 7:30. Your Cavaliers are sitting pretty at 8th in the East.
Oh, they're called the 76ers because the team was formed in 1976, which is the 200-year anniversary of something. I can't remember.
The bicentennial.
1776.
My brother is a bicentennial baby.
Oh.
And so
what's the bicentennial?
1776!
Centennial that goes both ways?
Mm-hmm.
Indeed it is, yes. Ain't nothing wrong with that. So yeah, that's tonight. Cavs basketball. You'll hear it on the on the Buzzard and on the iHeartRadio app. And congratulations, if you're Dick really threw me for a loop there with this.
He's never been confrontational like that before.
But he wasn't confrontational.
Well,
I was because I want to know what the hell he's talking about.
He was like, he's never taken a political stance.
Yes, he has.
Not like
I had all
that.
these people texting me going, what? I'm like, this is the least shocking news of the week. Of course, Dick's on record. He's like a Trump guy. Huh?
Oh, we expect it, but I don't feel like he's ever straight up come out and been like, the CVS shouldn't have celebrated Joe Biden's birthday.
Well, but that's not a shocking take from him, though. CVS. Over there, I'm like, what? Are you watching television at the pharmacy? What's happening? I know the CVS stores they're on strike or something, or they're critically underfunded. You know, those pharmacists over there at the CVS, they're really doing the Lord's work. They're trying as hard as they possibly can to keep things going. But boy, all these chains and their pharmacists, you know, back in the day, they called them chemists because they were back there working with things in beakers. And, but whether it's Walgreens or Duane Reade or Rite Aid, whatever you got going on, you'd think if any union had any kind of upper hand, it would be the pharmacists union, you know? Since everybody and their brother is on some kind of prescription, you'd think that's something that companies would want to figure out. Hey, how can we make sure we're staffed properly with chemists at our various locations? And we're not having interns mixing people's pills or whatever they do. I don't know how that works, but I should have asked Dick about the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
What about it?
Well,
do you not know what it is?
People are complaining because they've said that it's going to be a transgender extravaganza.
Oh.
What does that even mean?
I don't
it's
know.
A parade.
Words don't
Parades
mean
are
anything.
gay.
Yeah,
Words
parades
don't
are
have to
pretty
mean
gay.
anything anymore. I don't know what they mean by that, but of course, Macy's does, I don't know how long they've done it, but for a long, long time, they do the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. It's easily the most high-profile thing that any old retail establishment does. Macy's a very old company, and that having branded that Thanksgiving Day Parade, you know, it's a big thing for them. There's people who, I've had friends who have gotten like hotel rooms in New York along the parade route. And that's their right as tax-paying Americans. I can't imagine ever doing that. But a lot of people do that. A lot of hotels along that parade route there in New York are sold out. And it's kind of considered the kickoff to the holiday season. A lot of people consider the day after Halloween to kick off the holiday season. But it's that Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
I used to be so stingy because my birthday's always around Thanksgiving, whereas like my birthday has to happen before any Christmas decorations go up.
You were stingy.
Me. Whereas like it stays decorated for fall until after my birthday and after Thanksgiving. And I don't know if this is part of growing up, but I'm like, whatever, dude, do whatever you want. If you want to put your Christmas tree up in July and leave it up, then if you want to leave it up all year round, I don't really care what you do. If it makes you happy to have Christmas on November 1st, then do it.
Sure.
Some people get so weird. I was one of them, is what I'm trying to say.
You really turned a corner.
I did in the last few years.
She's debratified.
I'm kind of becoming less of a brat, which seems...
Well, you're getting older.
Yeah. I'll be 34. Where it's like, let's start Christmas whenever you feel ready to start Christmas.
My sister turned...
You were turning 40 for some reason.
You're such an ass.
My sister is going to turn.
Human Xanax
I can't
over
believe my little sister is
Not
going to
for
be.
you.
I can't believe my little sister is going to be 35 in January.
Yeah, she and I
It
are the
just
same
blows
age.
me away. No, you're a year younger than her.
Oh, yeah.
She's going to be 35 in January.
So she was born January of 89.
Yeah.
Okay.
My little sister. I was 17 when she was born. She was a little baby when I was going off to college. Wild.
But I kind of like the idea of some Christmas decorations up during Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's cute.
It's warm.
And it doesn't take away from your birthday. I mean,
Right.
people aren't looking at those and be like, I'm not here for Mary. I'm here for the
It's Jesus' birthday.
Yeah.
Well, especially since a lot of people, Casa Cox included, through no fault of my own, a lot of people have a tub of fall decor. But that's not Christmas stuff.
It's
people.
just Bill in a flannel. You don't have to call me a tub of fall decor.
It's like pumpkin candles
Yeah,
or stuffed
we have all
turkeys,
that,
or
yeah. Fake dead leaves.
Yeah, that's such a short-lived period of time
Well, it
that you
is.
might as well just go right into Christmas decorations.
Because if you put it up in September, there's still like 85-degree days in September. So you'll come home and you'll have all your orange and yellow and pumpkins and welcome fall and it's fall, y'all, and all that.
Yeah.
But it's hot outside, so it doesn't feel right. So really, you get like October and November, and that's it. That's your fall decor.
Now, I must draw the line at it's fall, y'all.
You don't like that?
No.
With a little truck on it with
Stop.
some pumpkins in the back of it? Or
If
the
you're
gnomes?
north of the Mason-Dixon line, stop. You do whatever you want to do, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. But anyway, some people are complaining about the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade for the most obvious, laughably predictable reasons of all.
Mrs. Doubtfire is going to be in it.
Mrs. Doubtfire is going to be in it. Well, it's funny
She's
that
dead.
the picture that they use is like Harvey Firestein in makeup, or it's not family friendly. The 1 million moms, which isn't even close to 1 million moms. It's like a dozen incels in their basement. These petitions that the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade is not family friendly. I guess the giant turkey and SpongeBob balloons aren't enough for some people. Especially, I guess, if you're one of the people helping to move the balloons along. They've got those guy wires on them. And if you're one of the people, that's like a big deal for some people, that they have like these national lotteries that people can enter to be one of the people who kind of chaperones, guides these balloons along. And so maybe they're worried that whoever wins the spot to be like under the turkey's crotch or something. Maybe they don't want that person on national television. Maybe they shouldn't put that on TV at the CVS. Shame on Macy's for promoting and sponsoring this type of entertainment, they say. Some people cannot get their heads around the fact that there's nothing wrong with including different kinds of people.
And that they've been
In
doing
national
this for
events.
30 years. Like they've been including all sorts of different people. And like, this is not...
But they're going to have, for people who are just there for the balloons, they're going to have Beagle Scout Snoopy. Get it? They're going to have Baby Yoda. They're going to have, they'll probably have the SpongeBobs and the Shreks and whatevers. But again, I couldn't tell you the last time. Because when I was a kid, these kinds of things were a big, big deal. Because the only time, network television, the only time you got exposed to those kinds of things. So the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, they had the Tournament of Roses Parade. Anybody remember that? I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. It was called the Tournament of Roses Parade, and it was something that they would do. It was in like Pasadena, California or something. And people were making these giant floats, and they would be covered in flowers. Held along Colorado Boulevard in Pasadena. Oh, there it is. The 135th. It's now called the Rose Parade, but it used to be called Tournament of Roses Parade. When I was a kid, you were up early to watch that stupid thing. Because it would be floats, but they'd be like, here's the stars of Three's Company. Hey, there's Albert Einstein and the Salvation Army Band. I'm not that old, but, Here's John Ritter. And you'd get to see some stars on a float. Who doesn't want to see stars of your favorite television shows gliding slowly a few feet off the ground?
Well, waving.
While waving, surrounded by beautiful blooms. All kinds of blooms. Let me talk to Rob Reiner. And,
More than 6, but fewer than 10 minutes. With somebody on the phone.
I did talk to them this morning. I had some technical difficulties, but I finally did get to speak to Rob Reiner and Soledad O'Brien about a new podcast on iHeartRadio. It's called Who Killed JFK? Tomorrow is the 60th anniversary of the John F. Kennedy assassination.
Yes, we hear you now.
Oh, hi, guys. I'm so sorry for, I appreciate your patience. I don't know what's going on in here. New studios. But I was, fortunately, able to avail myself of your Thanksgiving plans. And so, Soledad, my sincerest condolences on your quagmire there for Thanksgiving dinner.
You know, I hate to cook. Like, I really hate it. But everybody in my family knows how to cook has gone on vacation somewhere, so here I am cooking.
Rob, what are your plans for Thanksgiving?
Well, we're going to have about 25 people over to the house. And, so it'll be a successful Thanksgiving if there's no familial eruptions.
So let's get right to this. Soledad O'Brien, Rob Reiner, I don't need to introduce who they are, but they have an iHeart podcast. It's called Who Killed JFK? Tomorrow will be the 60th anniversary of JFK, and it is still amazing that you're able to legitimately kind of dig into this because so many things have still not been answered and people are still transfixed by it. Where does that come from?
Well, for me, it comes from being alive and aware of what happened at the time, and everybody who was will never forget exactly where they were when they heard the news. It was a national trauma of epic proportions. We all were stunned by what we heard. I was in school. I was sent home from school along with everybody else, and I went right to the television. We turned the television on, and we watched nonstop. The entire country was glued. And I actually watched live when the guy who was accused of killing President Kennedy, Lee Harvey Oswald, was himself murdered on national television right in front of our eyes.
I grew up Irish Catholic, and I went to school with either Italian kids or Irish Catholic kids, big Catholic school. And I remember my mom saying she knew where she was when Kennedy was killed. And all of my Italian friends, you know, they had pictures on the wall of Sinatra or the Pope. But all the Irish Catholic families had pictures of Kennedy on the wall. And so to your point, it was such a touchstone for an entire generation of people that does continue 60 years later.
It's true, but he was not just loved because he was the first Catholic president. He was loved. I mean, he was a great-looking guy, smart, funny, married to a beautiful woman. And, you know, they talked about Camelot in the White House. And then in one day, in broad daylight, an American president is murdered on a street in an American city. It was just unthinkable at that time. So think about it this way. You know, you have a loved one who's murdered and you don't know what happened. You're going to spend the rest of your life until you find out what did happen. And you won't have closure until you do. And people like me and a lot of others have stayed with this story for a long time. And, you know, you go on with your life, and then every so often a new revelation comes out. And then you start to put that together with other things that you've learned. And what we've done in this podcast is we've tried to take everything that's been revealed in the last 60 years, put it together in one 10-part podcast, and by the end of it, give everybody as clear a picture of what happened that day.
Soledad, is your approach to this, I mean, as a journalist and as an investigator of the highest order, do you have a giant red yarn board somewhere in your house for this podcast?
No, I love that in movies, though, where they have all the red yarn going places. I came to this as an outsider. You know, I love Rob's obsession with it and his dedication, frankly, over 60 years to try to figure out what happened. I learned about it in high school. It predates me by a few years, and so, you know, we covered it like history, probably, you know, maybe an hour in class, and that was it. And it was pretty clear. Lee Harvey Oswald, single shooter, let's move on. And then you realize as you start examining the information, as you start really understanding all of this stuff. That, by the way, more and more comes out every single, year or so, that none of it makes sense, or lots of it doesn't make sense, and that there's never been a real connecting of the dots in a thoughtful way to help people like me who come to it as an outsider, or people like Rob who come to it very much as insiders, to take all of that information that has come out piecemeal over time and really connect the dots. Remember, a lot of these people and their connections were unknown for decades until, it was revealed later. So it's if you did do a little red yarn board, it would be a very, very complicated board. And I think what we tried to do in this podcast is help people understand what happened, to hear from the very people who were there, who were on these committees, who were running things, who were there, and then also understand the context of what was happening, geopolitically in the world and in the country at that time. All to say, here's what we believe happened.
I just remember an old Woody Allen stand-up joke from the late 60s where he said that he had been hired to write a nonfiction version of the Warren Report. And I wonder if the two of you, the culmination of this podcast, I wonder if there's any thought that maybe the totality of this podcast will give other people information that furthers this investigation.
There's no question it will. For those of people who have been following it religiously, there may be only tiny little bits and pieces that they're learning. But for those who don't have, who have not immersed themselves in this, there's going to be a lot of information that they didn't know.
To me, a podcast like Who Killed JFK, this is what doing research requires of both of you, of either of you. It's not just somebody going on Facebook. Something like this has to be countered with massive amounts of and misinformation on a variety of topics. And the JFK assassination still is top 5 a conspiracy theory.
Yes, and right now where we sit as a country, 65% of the people in America believe it was a conspiracy. And here's what's really crazy about it. You have 2 official government reports on this. One is the Warren Commission report, which says it was a lone gunman, Lee Harvey Oswald, and the House Select Committee on Assassinations, which was done over a decade after that, says it was a conspiracy. So we here as the American public are sitting, well, which is it? What is it? So what we try to do is take a tremendous amount of information that came out after the House Select Committee in the 70s and put that all together and paint as clear a picture as we can.
And also to highlight some of the stuff that makes no sense. I'm not a person who goes down little rabbit holes a lot, very frequently, certainly not. And yet there was so much that makes no sense. People who were there who were never interviewed by the police. How did that happen? The guy doing the autopsy who burns the original autopsy report. How does that happen? I mean, the list goes on and on about things that were just make no sense. And if you're the kind of person who considers yourself, mostly sane, you begin to think like this is completely contradictory if you're actually trying to understand what happened to an American president shot dead in the street, right? It boggles the mind, frankly. And I say that as, again, a person who came to it from the outside, who hasn't been following the case for the last 60 years.
Rob Reiner and Soledad O'Brien are essentially your tour guides through this. The podcast is called Who Killed JFK? It's on iHeartRadio. Are all of the episodes up there, guys?
No. Well, we've had 2 episodes that have been released. The 3rd episode comes out this Wednesday. Every Wednesday, there's a new episode, and then 2 bonus episodes.
The timing couldn't be better. The 60th anniversary of JFK's assassination is tomorrow. And again, the podcast is called Who Killed JFK? Rob Reiner, Soledad O'Brien. I appreciate your time, guys. Good luck with this, and hopefully we'll connect again.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Who Killed JFK is on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts. Every Wednesday, going to be 10 episodes in all. So dive into it if that's your